Hey guys, I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week we have a very exciting discussion with two guests, the co-founders and managing directors of Maison Privee, Mallee Rami Shamaa, who they run a virtual hotel and brand offering high standards of accommodation and service focused on corporate visitors and discerning tourists. It was set up originally in 2017 due to the growth in demand for short-term vacation rentals in Dubai, coupled with the emergence of globally recognized distribution platforms such as Airbnb. In April 2018, they closed a Series A funding round at $4 million and are now rapidly expanding throughout Dubai. Today, we will discuss the journey of how the business was created, establishing a new offering in the real estate market, and also talk about travel and tourism rental trends post the global pandemic. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Paul Rami, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thanks for inviting us. Great to be here.
So let's jump into it. COVID-19, how is that? How have you dealt with it?
I think it's been a very interesting journey over the last number of months. Of course, the challenges have been very significant for everybody in the travel tourism space. We certainly have recognized that. We've pivoted our business to deal with it. We have really found a way to manage to shift our traffic and our demand to an area that worked for us, and that was really to have extended stays rather than a reliance on tourists coming into Dubai to stay in our product, which, as you mentioned, is luxury apartments and villas across the city in the best parts of town. What we found is that given the lack of tourists in the city, we needed to find another source of occupants for our units. And in doing so, we identified extended stay guests as that cohort. So these are people who stay with us instead of renting an apartment for a year. They will stay with us and pay on a monthly basis, for example. We've also had a very strong demand from staycation travelers, so leisure travelers who are in the city, who live here, but wish to have a staycation rather than just continue to stay in their home or maybe to go to a hotel, many of which have been closed over this period.
Interesting. So actually what Maison Privee have seen is similar to kind of rental and accommodation trends as well. There's a lot of more staycations, there's a lot more people looking for value and longer term rental without being locked in for too long.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, what we offer is flexibility. And that flexibility is something that people take a lot of comfort in. If they're, let's say, living in the city, they don't want to commit to a lease for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't know how long they're going to be here. They just don't want to have that burden. So they look for an extended stay in a fully furnished, fully ready to live in a property. And that's what we provide on one side, and on the other side is the staycation type traffic.
I would add to this, actually, people looking for larger places to be in due to the new restrictions. So, for example, larger family who have kids and now they have all to work from home and they were living in apartments. For a lot of them, they moved to villas, and we have a large offering of villas on the Palm. We have now a portfolio of around 15 villas on the Palm, and we found a huge demand from people living in Dubai, who work in Dubai, who wanted to move their family from normal apartment to stay in villas. And at the beginning of the COVID-19, we had some people who rented some of our villas for 4 months in a row.
So, we've also mentioned the kind of the duration of when you set up. At the start of this year, it must have been kind of an exciting proposition with the projected tourism numbers coming in for Expo and lots of things like that. And obviously in a city that attracts a lot of tourists. How big a shock was it to your planning? And, what was your initial reaction that the market was going to change?
Well, I think that, we had certainly a period of 2 weeks when the lockdown was imposed where lots of stuff froze. So anybody we had in-house kind of stayed in-house. But the new traffic became very limited for that very short period. But what we found is as soon as that 2-week lockdown period ended, that things quickly sort of got back to a degree of normality within the numbers that we saw, particularly because of the fact that we pivoted to that extended stay type traffic that I mentioned when the tourists were out of the game effectively, along with the staycation type traffic. So we did see an impact, and I suppose for us it was really about how do we respond to it, how do we find a way of dealing with it, and I guess we've, I suppose, identified a new way of growing our business alongside our core offering. And we see this type of extended stay traffic being a big part of our future, as well as what we're doing right now. And Rami, I don't know if you want to add anything in relation to the yields.
Yeah. So basically, we saw two trends going against each other, and we were able quickly to identify them. So one of them was tourists canceling their trips, but on the other hand, a lot of people who were in Dubai already and couldn't go back home. And this is why they had to find other accommodation to stay here.
Rather than maybe the expensive per night fee that they were doing.
Exactly. Okay. And they don't want to stay in hotels anymore because hotels will be more people there. So we found a lot of people are interested in our apartments and our villas. And there were a lot of, let's say at the beginning, a lot of Chinese. So they want to go back to home, and they stayed in our, so half of our villas were occupied by Chinese at the beginning, who stayed for a few months. So we were able really to capitalize quickly on this opportunity to negate the negative effect of losing the tourists themselves.
Okay. And from a communications point of view, did you communicate this new positioning to existing clients and customers and to your stakeholders? And how did you go about that?
So, I mean, for our owners, definitely we explained this to them, and then they can see from the monthly report that we send them that their performance was not really much affected. Of course, as well for our guests, we identify to them more like all the precautions we are taking, the sanitization we are taking. We took a lot of measures of precautions, and we communicated this to them as well, so that to let them feel comfortable.
Okay. And in terms of distribution, marketing, getting in front of potential guests, we absolutely made sure that we focused on this new product offering, or let's say a slightly modified product offering. But a key component, I think, of the message that we have been working on is the fact that the residential properties that we have in our portfolio, and we have over 200 units across the city, the residential nature of that product brings with it natural seclusion. So you're not in a big, busy hotel with 500 rooms. You're in a residential property, and whether that's a villa, which of course is by itself, fully isolated from other people coming in and being around your place when you're staying there. But even in a residential environment of a residential building, then you still have that natural environment to yourself. It's not being, let's say, interfered with by other people. There aren't people coming in and around you, and this is a big component, I think, as well.
So just not as many people coming into the hotels and things like that.
So the footfall is lower. I mean, the risk exposure basically during COVID, I think, is much lower in our type of product. And I think internationally we're really seeing that be a growth trend as people are now looking to travel to a degree. And what they're looking for is vacation rental properties, and that's what we do.
Okay.
So, I think internationally the recognition is there that the growth in travel and tourism over the coming number of years is going to be very heavily leaning towards vacation rentals as an attractive option for people to stay.
You use the word growth. Will there be growth?
I firmly believe there will be, and I think that there will be a pent-up demand, first of all, from people who haven't been able to travel. But notwithstanding the international limited movement that there will be over the next number of months, I think that once we get back to a normal type travel environment, then again I think people will look towards vacation rentals as that very attractive option for their vacation, where they get to be in their own cocooned environment without having lots of people around them.
And also, like, to add two things to this, for example, a lot of people now, they don't want to share, let's say, pools with others. So, for example, our properties, which has their own private pools, they were extremely in high demand during the last period, during the lockdown, when people cannot access public facilities. But even now, where some people, they just want to have their own pool. The other thing now is that the travel is becoming so complicated. So people, when they travel, tourists now, they will not be looking, to go travel for 3 or 4 days only. They'll be looking more to stay in a place for, let's say, maybe 2 weeks or so, because there's a lot
longer
of
trips rather than
longer trips, exactly, because a lot of complication was the traveling. And for them, like, longer trips mean more expenses, mean maybe being a bigger group. So hotels will not really make sense for them. And then they would prefer to be either in villas or in apartments. And to make more sense for them. So there are a lot of trends that are working in our favor that negate the other negative trends.
And one thing I'd add to that as well is that ability to have a living environment where you can cook for yourself. You can maintain, there's a full washing facilities in each of our units. So, you have a washing machine, a tumble dryer, and all of these things that you would have in your normal home environment. So what we give people, I suppose, is the opportunity to have a very normal lifestyle on their vacation. They can cook for themselves. They can, make sure that the kids eat the same food that they normally eat, and they're not worried about going to restaurants and trying to figure out how to do. All of this is provided in the vacation rental unit, and that's a very attractive option for people when they travel, especially, as Rami said, when they're traveling for an extended period, which we believe people will look to do because of the hassle of going somewhere. When you go, you will stay there that little bit longer. Yeah,
it's interesting. So the supply, the kind of what you're catering towards, your offering is catering towards what the demand, and we've seen hotels as well kind of put together kind of long-term packages. But can I just question a little bit more of the demands? I understand your offering is compelling for those looking for it, but if I talk about 3 things, say travel in terms of a global pandemic and the risk of airports, the risk of passing on the disease without a vaccine. So we take that as number 1. Number 2, the kind of the inconvenience of extra tests. I'm traveling next week and I have to do much more admin and paperwork. I have to get tested 4 times. I have to literally time my 72 hours, etc. Will I have the test? It's really, really, intense. It's logistically challenging. And then thirdly, the economy. So, there's a lot of jobs, the good analogy for the kind of V-shaped recovery was more like a K. Some businesses are going up and others are definitely going down. In terms of people losing jobs and having money to travel. So do you think that, when you say coming back to a normal environment, how do you what will happen, those 3 things? How does that become normal?
Sure. I mean, first, there are 2 things, for example. One of them is there is the local tourism, and we benefit a lot from the local tourism. People this year who could not actually travel abroad and they had to stay in the country. So for them for example, they don't have, let's say, a second house or a summer house or a place by the beach. So they ended up renting, let's say, our villas, and they took it as if this is their summer vacation. So whatever they were going to spend somewhere else, they ended up spending there. So this was a positive trend. The other trend is now that there are a lot of people who have been locked down for so long period, and they want to travel now. And for them, Dubai is perceived as a very safe place, is perceived as a city, or a UAE as a country that was able to combat COVID-19 before other countries. So you'll find a lot of people in Europe now, especially that winter is coming in, and they were locked in during the whole summer. They will all come to Dubai. So we are getting ready to our season that start in October, November. A lot of people who were in Europe, who were locked down the whole period, who are really in desperate need of vacation. Dubai is perceived as being a safe place. So for them, they will make the trip.
Two good points.
And I think that confidence is very important when people do travel. And to that end, we're very happy to have been awarded the World Tourism and Travel Council Safe Stamp, which basically recognizes the measures that we've taken and that we actively manage to ensure the safety of each of our units when people arrive. The cleaning, the hygiene procedures, the way we manage interactions with our guests, all of that type of thing is covered by that Safe Stamp. And this, I think, is a very important part of ensuring that there's confidence on behalf of those traveling in staying in a location that they know has been hygienically managed and treated in the right way.
Yeah. So before we move on to the kind of more the backstory in Maison Privee, another question around COVID in relation to Airbnb. They're a company in your category globally, maybe, and you can correct me, and they were planning to do a public offering this year. They've raised a lot of money. They've got a strong brand. They've been around for a number of years. When it happened, they postponed their IPO. They took out billions of dollars of loans and they let go a lot of staff. And there was also kind of a lot of communication with their hosts and a lot of questions of can their host provide in this new environment for their guests? How did you view sort of how that narrative has played out?
Well, I mean, regarding the IPO, for example, IPO are always based on sentiment, right? So for them, this is not the right time to do an IPO because a lot of people will not, have confidence in investing in this period. So a big part of it is sentiment. Although we have some other, let's say, peers of ours who have been raising money, like there is a company called Sonder in the US who has just raised $200 million during this period. But they were more focused on the extended stay. The other thing about Airbnb as well, Airbnb is more about pure tourist, about pure short stay rather than the longer extended stays. So
that's where you differ.
Yeah. So this is how they were affected.
But they're also a platform, and rather than an operator, and we would be sort of in the operator category where we actually manage the units, we manage the guest experience, and we make sure that we look after our guests as if they were in a 5-star type accommodation. Airbnb run a platform where people like us, for example, can list our properties on their platform and people can book to stay with us through Airbnb. Now, my understanding is that Airbnb are still planning their IPO for later this year, based on the latest information that we have. And there is a degree of confidence behind that. I guess if they're of that mind, then clearly that they feel that the market is going to open back up and that they will be in a position to capitalize on it. Certainly from our perspective, we do have a lot of confidence in the market. I mean, we certainly expect to double our portfolio in the coming 12 months at a minimum. We are looking to other markets. For example, Saudi Arabia is on our radar, and a number of other places that we feel that we can expand to, that our model will work very well in, and that we will continue on our growth story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the kind of tech bubble and the trends, maybe as you alluded to, probably gave them confidence that the market will receive their offering well. So it's good to see. But also there's a lot of projections that are a couple of years away. So I'm sensing a lot of positiveness, but did you have to revise targets this year? Did you have to make some cutbacks, or is it all sort of, we're doing this for the long haul and we're just kind of, we're adjusting our plans, but it's still long term?
I mean, to be honest, our numbers really didn't change much because, as I mentioned, there were a lot of trends going against each other that, neutralized thing. We did not, for example, have any staff cuts. We did not have any salary cuts. So for us, business was as usual.
Okay. Very good to hear. Great. So well positioned. So going back to the start, Maison Privee, where did the idea come about? How did you guys meet? And how did you set it up?
Well, Rami and I had worked in a previous company together, at Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a global strategy consultancy. We had a lot of mutual friends, and we had many discussions between various friends about what we thought about business, etc. And one mutual friend identified that the two of us were talking about the same principal idea, and suggested that we have a chat about it together. And that's when we sat down and discussed the concept of putting together Maison Privee as a business. This whole idea of curating a portfolio of luxury apartments to offer into the market on a short-term rental basis, in essence, and to wrap that in, concierge supported experience for the guests that come and stay with us. So our product, I guess, is not just overnight accommodation, but it's overnight accommodation plus the guest experience wrapped around it. We would provide access, for example, if a guest in one of our villas would like to have an in-house chef to cook for them during their stay, then we make that arrangement. If they want to have a luxury car parked outside for the week that they're there, the 2 weeks that they're there, etc., then we will provide that. And these are the types of things that we have as added value services to the accommodation itself. All of our guests are, met by our guest relations executives. They're shown around, and everything is explained in terms of how to enjoy the accommodation that we provide. Simple things like how do you use the microwave, how do you use the cooker, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a very personal
not
experience.
Just here's the key, off you go.
It's not like that. It's not a depersonalized service. We do, of course, provide seamless self-check-in for guests who want to have a contact-free check-in experience. That's something that we also provide, and we have the systems and technology in place to allow that to happen. But at its core, our business is about its luxury travel. It's about the experience. It's about that guest, the enhanced guest experience, and we provide that through our team of guest relations executives.
And I would like to say that both of us had a corporate, let's say, experience for 15 years, and we were interested in starting a new business and sourcing about entrepreneurship or startup. And then when we thought in Dubai, what are the sectors that are interesting, and hospitality, of course, is one of them. There was a law that was passed back then that is actually regulating the short-term stay and the holiday home market. So this meant that we can do freely our activities. It will be protected by the laws. There will be no trends against us, like in some other, let's say, European and US countries where they are restricting the holiday home sector. Here on the contrary, the government was blessing it and supporting it. At the same time, if you look, there was an increased number of tourists. Expo 220 was about to be announced.
Yeah.
Hotels are expensive. At the same time, there is a good stock of apartments here or villas that have amazing amenities like the pool, the gym. So it really made sense, to get into this market. Also at this point of time, Airbnb, Booking.com, all of these platforms were kind of technology enablers to our business. So everything was like directing toward the direction that this is an interesting idea to do, an interesting market.
So
at the right time.
At the right time. So very strategic. It sounds like you looked at the right sort of things and you kind of had that product market fit.
We are consultants.
Exactly, from a consultancy point of view. But then from a startup point of view, how did that pan out? Was it as you expected? Did you have to kind of hustle a little bit? Was it different, or how did it pan out?
I would just say, you have a plan, and then the reality hits, and you have to find a way of managing to that. I mean, certainly it was for us both an extremely hands-on experience from the very start. We literally finished our first apartment in terms of its fit out the evening before the first guest arrived. I mean, it was literally down to that level of excitement, hands-on experience. I mean, we had both held very senior roles in previous jobs, and now we were, changing sheets on a bed almost. It was like, cleaning the floors, like this level of engagement in the product, and that's what we did. And so I think as part of our journey, having done every step of the activity, from meeting the guest to effectively managing the fit out of the units, to making sure that the cleaning is done to the right standards. We know intimately every aspect of the business, and I think that was a very important part of our growth in creating the company. And it gave us the foundation to understand everything in the right level of detail and to be able to improve it, I suppose.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm smiling because it's very well thought out. Your answers are very good. It's very strong, and I imagine that would be well received by investors and that point of view. Is that how you found it? Was it sort of, we've been consulting big businesses over a long time. We really know how to position a strategy. Was that well received when you sought to raise funds?
I mean, definitely there was, let's say, a trust in our background and what we have done. But at the same time, we raised funds after a certain period of growth. And when we started this business, I mean, we received a lot of positive feedback from owners, for example, and we kept growing our portfolio very quickly and actually way faster than what was expected. And of course, when the time came for the fundraising, we had established a certain platform that was interesting for the investors.
So it was not just sort of a good opportunity, as you described, the regulation, the tourism numbers and things like that. It was also not only do we see a decent roadmap, there's a good kind of market gap that investors you should look at. Also, look, this thing works. People like it. It's already working. And that those kind of things came together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think internationally it was recognized that when people are looking to travel, they're actively looking to vacation rentals as an option. And I think that was very much recognized in platforms like Booking.com, who really shifted their focus from just providing hotel rooms to providing accommodation in the broader sense of the word, and particularly on vacation rentals. all of our units are fully dedicated to vacation rentals. They're not somebody's house that they typically live in, and when they're away, we market it short term. That's not what we do. All of our units are fully dedicated and set up for the purpose of vacation rentals. And platforms like Booking.com work with companies like us to deliver that inventory into the market. And it works very well. And as I said, internationally, the growth has been quite exponential in terms of people actively looking to find accommodation in a city that they want to travel to, which is residential in nature. And it's this idea of living like a local in the city that you're traveling to. So if you want to come to Dubai on holiday, where better to stay than on the Palm in your own private villa with your own private pool and your own private beach outside.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the concept that people dream of, right? This is the idea when they think about where they're going to travel next. What is their experience going to be like? And if you go back 10 years, you simply, unless you bought that villa, you simply couldn't stay there because you had no access to it. But now companies like us in Maison Privee, we provide that access. We give people the opportunity to live like a local in the environment that they come to.
And also, if you look at the makeup of tourists who come to Dubai, a lot of them are families rather than, individuals coming alone. So a lot of these families, it's better for them to be in a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, all of them together, rather than be scattered in 3, 4 small hotel rooms. So this also makes sense a lot for them.
Your providers, are they both building owners and property owners? Are they both?
Yeah, so we will work with developers. We will work with the owners of a tower, for example, and we'll take a significant portion of stock within that tower. So we would take floors or potentially the whole building, and then also private individual owners of investment properties, let's say, and they give their unit to us to manage. And we typically generate 20-25% more net revenue for that owner.
So that's the proposition to them. That's why they do it.
Exactly. And they also have, on top of that, the owner also has the flexibility to use that unit for themselves or their family if they want to during the year. They can, in other words, they can lock out the apartment for themselves for a period if they were to have family over, for example. So it gives a lot of flexibility to owners.
Interesting. So I can, if an owner is aware of your platform, I can see why they would do it. But the question is around the existing real estate space. Why would a company, say, who has many agents on the ground and a lot of inventory not move into this space? And how is that competition? How have you guys been allowed into that space?
Well, if I can touch on that one, I'd say that we are like a hotel. We're not real estate brokers. We are a hospitality company. So our whole business is built around addressing customer needs and making sure that we provide customer service. We provide a luxury stay experience for our guests. Some real estate companies have got into this space, but they would typically run it more like a real estate company.
But why wouldn't a real estate company get into the Booking.com ecosystem, for example?
They can do, and they can get a license. They can get a license to do what we do. But they would typically, from what we've seen, they would typically run that more like a rental.
Yeah, so they prefer to be on a property platform rather than a travel booking platform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Our business is very operational oriented, and there are a lot of details in it. There is a lot of customer service in it. A lot of developers, their strategies and minds are more about selling or about renting. So it's more of transaction oriented rather than it's not interesting for them to get into details of the operation. So it's better for them to outsource it and then share the revenue with us.
So the hotels that offer cheaper long-term rentals, do you think that pricing model is there to stay?
To be honest with you, I have seen a lot of these offerings, and the hotel rooms themselves, they are not catered for long-term stay. They are small hotel rooms. They are standard in a certain way.
They're not apartments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you are in an apartment, you have the feel of the space. You have the feel of this apartment. The furniture there is not the standard furniture, but it's more like furniture, like as if I'm at home. So there is a life in it or a soul in it. And this is why I believe that these hotels are basically currently just competing on prices in order to fill in, the rooms that they have, but I don't think that this is a model that they can venture into.
Yeah, and they also have other things. They've got other offerings that are hotel-like, such as restaurants and staff and cleaning and different things that all gears. I think whenever I see innovation in a hotel, unless it's from the bottom up, unless it's built from the start, you kind of wonder, can it change? There was this talk a while ago of this flexible check-in, and pay by the hour and things like that. But the whole kind of global industry of hotels is, you check in at kind of 3 p.m. and you check out at 12 the next day. It's very hard to change. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I think that's very true. And there have been a few, I suppose, iterations of the typical hotel model. But you're right, they're fairly focused. It's a room and it's provided for a set period, and that's it, and supported by F&B, etc. I think there's a reason that companies like us are being referred to as disruptors, and that's because we are going into the hospitality space and offering a very different product and service. And by providing that product and service, we have come on the radar of hotels, and internationally this has very much been the case.
Yeah.
You have a very good example is One Fine Stay, who are probably the pioneer in the space that we're in terms of the vacation short-term rental sector. They were bought by Accor Hotels, who recognized that, okay, we see that there's a trend growing here. We see that people are looking to travel this way, and we want to be part of that. So they bought this company for $250 million about 3 years ago, I think, thereabouts. And that was a recognition of, okay, now there's a change in the market. Now there's a change in customer dynamics, and these guys are addressing that change, and the hotel chains wanted to be part of that.
And even Marriott itself did the same. They created a platform last year to actually compete with Airbnb and Booking.com. So a platform basically for homes, and then in which we can list our properties on them and even enjoy the Marriott points. So the guest who is going to stay in our apartment and book through the Marriott platform, he will get the Marriott points.
So for example, if I'm on Marriott Bonvoy app, I can actually book long-term stays in a similar offering that they've created a similar offering to Maison Privee now.
So they create a platform where they are listing our products on it.
So they will work with companies like us that are trusted, vetted companies that provide the accommodation that we provide, and they're doing this on a global basis, and they're going through a rollout process at the moment into different countries and different cities.
So interesting. So just to explain to people in a way that the status quo for hotel operating are big holding groups. They don't own the property. They're management companies, and they've many sub-brands, such as, say, Marriott might have premium luxury, 3-star, 5-star, and different offerings. And it's very much like you would offer in terms of the experience, the brand, the full concierge, but they do it in the hotel way. And now, by acquiring a Maison Privee or allowing a Maison Privee there, they're actually, it's in line with what they're doing. It's just another offering to the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's effectively ensuring that they capture the market and where the demand is for different parts of the food chain or the value chain.
Can I ask a question around the hotel operating system traditionally are incentivized by the gross booking. They're not incentivized by the margin. So that sometimes has a breakdown in the tenant or the property owner and the hotel management system, which is why sometimes you see property owners managing their own premises. Do you experience similar?
Not really. I mean, I think that what we provide, I suppose, is a facility for property owners to have their units managed in a professional way. As Rami mentioned earlier, I think that what we do is very specific. It's a very focused, customer-orientated service delivery. And in order to be able to provide that level of service, you really need to set up the infrastructure, the technology, and the operation in a very structured way. And that's what we've done. And so we can execute. If somebody who owns a building wants to do it themselves, they can, but it's a difficult journey. And certainly over the last number of years that we've been in business, we've modified and refined our operating model in order to optimize it and to make it as effective and as efficient as possible, both on behalf of the owners of the property to deliver them the best return, but also on the guest experience, so that the guest enjoying that ultimate experience.
And in terms of margins, so from a rental point of view, the owner might get 20-25% more. Does that reflect your profits in terms of the margins overall in comparison with, say, hotels? Or do you have similar profit margins than a hotel business?
So basically, we work with the owners on a revenue sharing model where they will take the bulk of the revenue and we will take a part of it. And it's pure revenue sharing. So meaning if the unit is not selling or is not being rented, we don't make any money, and they don't as well. But if both of us are if it's rented, both of us make
per transaction or.
No, it's per month. So basically, at the end of every month, we'll send the statement, and then we'll say these are all the booking that happened, and this is your part of the revenue, and this is our part of the revenue as well. The way we are a bit different than hotels is that our model is way more flexible and more variable in terms of cost. So we don't have a lot of fixed costs, let's say, other than the payroll. But hotels, for example, due to the size, due to the F&B, due to having a reception, due to having all of these things, they have a lot of more sticky costs that make them less flexible than us. And maybe this is for us, it was easier for us to adapt, during the pandemic. Yeah.
Interesting. And are there any other costs that you have? Like, do you have much more tech costs? Is marketing similar? Are staff costs similar?
So, I mean, a lot of the functions we have mirror what is an hotel. Like, for example, we will have the operations team, we will have the revenue management team, we'll have the reservation team, the marketing, the finance team. But we don't have, let's say, all the F&B costs that are there. We don't have all the costs that are associated with the front office, the receptions. Also, we don't have the fixed expenses of the building itself that an hotel has to maintain, because in a lot of the apartments we are in, the facility itself is being serviced by the building itself, or by the service charges that being paid by the owner. So all of these costs does not exist in our business.
But we're also very much a startup, and we continue to operate in that bootstrap kind of mindset where we try and manage as efficiently as possible. We try and leverage the marketing activities that we do. We try to manage our spend very, very carefully. We use the right distribution channels to get in front of the guest in the most efficient way. All that type of thing. We really have that. We're not a multinational corporation that can spend. Airbnb cut $1 billion from their marketing budget this year. $1 billion. I mean, this is at a different level, obviously, right? So we're very prudent. We're very conscientious about how we spend our money and how we invest in order to grow the business and develop it. And that's the way we see things going forward. So
a nice segue into the kind of next steps and the next steps for the business and going forward. What's in the roadmap? Are you what are you going to invest in? Both for Maison Privee. First for Maison Privee.
So, I mean, I would say here in Dubai, we will continue growing. I mean, the market is very interesting for us. We will be focusing more, let's say, on the villa product, because it proves to be a very interesting, very profitable, very in demand. So I would say this on the local market. We will also continue, offering more product accommodation, let's say concierge services, value-added services. Then definitely the regional and global expansion is something that we started working on. As Paul was mentioning, we are eyeing Saudi, we're eyeing a lot of other places. When the COVID started, some of these plans were a bit on hold, but they are still there. And our plan is to roll out the platform throughout the region.
And I suppose one of the things that works very much in our favor is that we're very flexible. We can be flexible. We make the decisions and we decide on how to grow the business, of course. And I suppose when we look at new markets or new inventory, we understand what works. We know what type of product sells. We, as a business currently, we probably turn down 30-40% of the units that are offered to us because we know they're not going to work in the model that we have or in the environment that we have. They're not of the right standard. They don't have the right facilities. The view is not correct. It's not the best view. So we're very selective in what we take into the portfolio because we will take in what we know works. We can apply that same logic in other markets that we go to. We will go in at a degree of scale into a new market that makes sure that we have a presence and an operating level that will make sense. So this is what we'll do, and we will look to the markets that that are most attractive, that have the assets there. Whether it's a building or a collection of villas, we will look to take on the right amount of stock.
And definitely partnering with developer in other in other countries. So there are a lot of countries here in the region where have been a lot of development, and a lot of developers are interested in this product. So and maybe the countries there are still not as the holiday home is not as developed as here. So for them, they want to develop it.
Yeah. So I guess that good answer. I was kind of, wondering about, with new investment or with further investment, would you build a tech platform? Would you change the model? But actually, you build the model, it works in this market. It's just about building the same model in other markets and kind of taking little sort of customer-centric decisions on product. But basically, essentially, it's the same business model.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a replication. I mean, effectively, what we did here, and we were very focused on doing it, was refining the model, the operating model, ensuring that we had everything down in Dubai before we exported. There was no point in exporting something that wasn't quite right. So what we have focused on is making sure that from a process and operations perspective, we have everything at the optimized level. And now we are very comfortable with the idea of going into new markets and replicating the model. We will support that model with the right technology, whether it's third-party technology or developed in-house, depending on what's available and what makes sense for us. What we didn't want to do was unnecessarily burden ourselves with tech development where we could get a third-party solution. It just didn't make sense for us. It was really about getting the operating structures in place, making sure that we're supported, enabled by the right technology, and then move on from there.
Yeah, but we are a hospitality operator, so for us, we want to remain a hospitality operator. Maybe grow and expand and refine our process and procedures. But for example, we don't want to go and compete with Airbnb on creating a distribution platform, because this is actually a very different business. It's a different business. And But for example, there is an evolution, for example, in the way we're doing our business. So for example, when we started initially, we were just getting apartments, scattered apartments. Then we moved into dealing, with some developers that will give us a block of units. Now, maybe in the future, we'll be just interested in getting a full building itself and managing it, rather than, just having scattered apartments. And one of the main reasons when we decide to move to a new city or a new country would be the availability of one stock we can start from the beginning. So we don't want to go and start with 1 or 2 apartments there, because now we want to move a bit faster. So if we have an opportunity to go and start, let's say we're in a development of 50 or 100 units, this will be the reason to go.
And ultimately, you want the consumer to choose Maison Privee. You want that to be the point of entry. Is that the brand strategy?
Absolutely. I mean, it's about the guest experience, and we're very focused on that. We know that delivering the right guest experience delivers the right return for the owners of the asset. And so those two things work very well together, and they marry very well together. And ensuring that we can, repeat that experience consistently, making sure that we have that delivery platform for the actual guest stay that's consistent. That's very important to us.
There was an interesting piece, and I don't know if you saw it in the FT at the weekend, about how generic Airbnb interiors are around the world. They all have the same style and stuff like that. If I was to say to Maison Privee, would it be like saying, are there sort of branding in the apartment? Do I know that I've stayed at Maison Privee aesthetically?
I mean, we certainly interior design all of our units individually. So we have an interior design team that will go into a unit, that will assess what the right look and feel for that unit is, depending on the building, the style, the location, the specifics of the actual unit itself. And we will deliver a design concept into that we know speaks to the guest profile that will come and stay there.
Is there a welcome message with Maison Privee on the TV?
Not on the TV, but we do have a welcome manual. We do provide amenity kits, welcome kits to our guests. There is that brand engagement, which we do believe is very important.
But also what we're trying to do is actually to create the Maison Privee brand, meaning that people come and stay with Maison Privee, rather than, for example, going on Airbnb and just trying to find any accommodation. So it will become more, this is a trusted, this is a trusted brand. It's an operator. We can see a lot of reviews that they have done. We want to stay in this company because we trust it, rather than just the apartment look nice. And of course, this means that we want to, reduce our reliance, let's say, on Airbnb and Booking.com and derive more demand from our own website. And actually, during the pandemic, this worked very well, that the reliance on Airbnb and Booking.com really went down. And a lot of people who are booking, our villas and our apartment, they came to know us and book through us directly. So let's say the demand that we are getting on the OTAs, which is like Airbnb and Booking.com, used to be, let's say, before this 70%. Now it's like 5 or 10% during the pandemic, and all the rest is coming direct to us. And definitely
OTAs like Booking.com.
Yes. And definitely for us, moving into the future, we want really to increase the reliance on the direct booking, because first, this means that our brand is becoming is getting a value. And second, we are returning more to our owners because we don't have to share with Airbnb and Booking.com the fees.
Exactly. Interesting.
Yeah. And building that customer base has been, very much part of our activity, engaging with that customer base, making sure that we're front of mind when they think about their next travel experience. And providing that access, I think, is very important for us.
And you can migrate them, you can turn them into direct Maison Privee customers after they've discovered you in a different way.
Absolutely, and that's always our goal, is to make sure that the next time they book directly with us, and they let's say escape the fees of third party channels like Booking.com, for example.
Is there a roadmap to a Series B, and how do you approach fundraising? Do you dedicate one of the co-founders to specialize in it and all the time that's needed for that?
I would say that we're not currently looking at Series B. We're well funded now. We don't have a particular requirement at this stage. As we grow internationally and we think about that growth plan internationally, then maybe that's something that we will look to do. But for now, it's not on our agenda. I guess we were very lucky in that we were approached by somebody who was interested in investing because they liked our business model. They saw what we were doing. They understood the concept and they wanted to be part of it. So I guess we were, while we weren't actively looking for investment, we were sought out. And it made sense. It made sense for us to do that. Really, I think our focus is on growth now. It's about how do we get to a degree of scale internationally that puts us on the radar in different markets. And because our customer base is a traveling customer base, we see the ability to be the Maison Privee provider of choice, or accommodation provider of choice in different markets where our guests are going to be. So the guests will follow us as well as we follow the market trends.
And also, our business model is quite asset light. Like, it doesn't really require a lot of capex investment unless if you're going to do an acquisition. And for example, if we decide to go on acquisition and raise funds specifically for this acquisition,
what type of acquisition?
Like go and acquire another company, for example.
I know they're a company in the same space.
In the same space. So it will be even easier to raise the funds because it will be for a specific purpose. So investors are always interested, in investing when they know the money is going where, rather than just do general investment and tell them, I'm going to spend a bit on marketing, a bit on technology. So I think we have passed this stage. And now if we go for another funding, it will be for a specific purpose, which will make it more easier.
Yeah. Okay. So a very Dubai works. And the final question is around this region as an emerging market. Would you consider this a region emerging market? What do you think its chances of emerging is, if we can put that in sort of tangible numbers? And where are your bets in the region?
I mean, the region is very diverse. So, I think it's very difficult to put all the different countries in one basket. But definitely, I would say it's a very promising region. I think Dubai is the hub of the Middle East. A lot of businesses are being there. So I think it was right for us to start from Dubai and build institutions from it, which will enable us, to attack the other countries after this. But definitely, we are very bullish on the region.
I think we're very lucky that we were in Dubai at the right time with the right idea. And we've been able to put together a business model that works not just here, but internationally. I think that the region generally is ripe for our type of product, certainly. And I also think that in terms of the growth dynamic and the focus on startups in the region in general, I think there's huge opportunity. And I really am very enthused by the startup ecosystem that Dubai has put in place. the support structures that the government are working on, ensuring that companies like ours, get that kickstart, get that initial, movement and the supports that are needed. As Rami mentioned earlier, the fact that the regulations are in place to govern our industry, our sector, are hugely important. I mean, the foresight of the government to put in place the rules and the framework to operate vacation rentals in Dubai, in many other countries, it hasn't been done. It's fantastic because it gives us a platform on which to grow from. And we're in a very lucky position.
So when you're making decisions on new markets to go to, do you look at, obviously you look at internationally, do you look at sort of luxury travel hotspots, or do you look at first mover advantage in emerging markets? So for example, if similar regulation was put in place in the Middle East, in Egypt, in Jordan, in Saudi, would that be more appealing to you because there's no one else there?
I mean, we have a large matrix of things we look at, but as you mentioned, all of these things, like for example, regulations are very important. The availability of supply is very important. The dynamics of the country, but the dynamics of the country could also change. Like for example, in some countries, it might not be the tourist, but might be the local tourism. So for example, countries, let's say like Saudi or Egypt, they have huge population, and there are big countries. So there are a lot of movement within the country for local tourism. So this could be a trend there as well. So each country would be taken from different perspective, but of course the business case has to make sense for it.
And there's also, the corporate travel market as well, which we haven't really touched on, but it's a very important one. We if you think about the backgrounds that myself and Rami have that we mentioned as consultants, you typically work in a particular city for a number of weeks or months.
Your former
on a
company,
project.
Booz Hamilton, could be your clients.
Well, exactly. They are. So all of the consulting firms are clients of ours, and basically what we provide is access to their staff to stay in a residential property where they're much happier than staying in a small hotel room where they're in a box for 8 weeks. Yeah. So it works very, very well. And that in markets that we're looking to go into, having our corporate clients in that market makes it very attractive for us to also look to those markets.
Interesting. That's all we have time for today, guys. Really interesting conversation. Thanks a lot for coming on. And it'd be good to follow Maison Privee in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.